with another cozy story time. You guys may have noticed that we are coming up on the end of our summer reading program as I am filming this. And the theme of our summer reading program in 2022 has been oceans of possibilities. So I have read so many nonfiction and fiction storybooks about the ocean, and I have absolutely loved it. And I found one that I thought might be good for a cozy story time. It was one that I ended up not using in any of my programs here at the library. You guys, I think you may have figured out by now, I do love a picture book biography. And this one is titled Mermaid Queen. Oh, and I love the illustrations. The author, oh yes, and it's a true story. The author is Shauna Corey, and it's illustrated by Edwin Fotheringham. Sounds very proper, Fotheringham. So let's dig into this story. Look at the title page. That's gorgeous. This is the, I'm sorry, it also says on the title page, the spectacular true story of Annette Kellerman, who swam her way to fame, fortune, and swimsuit history. Annette Kellerman loved to make waves. When Annette was little, when she was a little girl, she lived in a house by the sea in Australia. Annette's parents were music teachers, and her house was filled with singing and dancing and music. Every day, Annette watched the dancers twirl and dip and swirl. She dreamt that one day she would be one of them, beautiful and graceful and fancy-free. But Annette couldn't dance. She could hardly even walk. To strengthen her legs, Annette's father taught her to swim. Annette swam and swam, and the more she swam, the stronger she grew. Pretty soon, she was slicing through the water, winning races and setting records. But in 1903, people weren't used to seeing female athletes. Annette's mother worried that people would talk. She wished that Annette would do something more artistic. I just have to tell you guys up here in this scene, I don't know if you can see it, but you see these women sitting with Annette's mother. And it says, how rugged, how sweaty. But swimming had made Annette's legs strong. And in the water, she didn't feel plain or clumsy or weak. She felt beautiful and graceful and fancy-free. Annette kept practicing her strokes and making waves. When she wasn't racing, she daydreamed about the ballerinas she'd loved as a little girl. She whirled and twirled, she dipped and danced and dived. No one was sure exactly what it was she was doing, but Annette didn't care one bit. She loved her new invention. It wasn't quite ballet, and it wasn't quite swimming. It was water ballet. Swimming and diving filled Annette with joy. She wanted to show other girls how wonderful they could be. She demonstrated her dazzling dives at the local aquarium. A fine performance, trumpeted the papers. Annette and her father decided to show the world Annette's invention and exactly what girls could do in the water. They said goodbye to Australia and sailed for England. When they arrived in London, they went to Soho and the Strand, Piccadilly, and the Palace, hoping to put on a show. But everywhere they went, people just scoffed. A girl swimmer? Too plain, too plump, too weird, too wet, too bad. Annette remembered her mother's worries. If people saw a girl swimmer, they might talk. But maybe that was just what she needed. Maybe Annette should do something drastic to get people talking about girl athletes. Annette and her father towed out to the middle of the yucky, mucky River Thames. She dove into the mucky water. She swam for 13 miles up the river, dodging tugs and barges the whole way. "You're a girl," gasped the watchman when he pulled her out. Now people were paying attention. A newspaper even asked if Annette would try to swim the English Channel. The English Channel separated France and England. It was 22 miles wide. Only one man and no woman had ever made it across. Side note, a woman did make it across later. She was an American. Her name was Gertrude Edel. But anyway, that still didn't stop Annette. Guys, the River Thames was so nasty at that time. I can't imagine what it took for her to swim through that muck. And with all those barges and other boats as well, I'm glad she didn't get hurt. Annette and her father traveled to Dover to train. For the next 6 weeks, she swam from one seaside resort to another. When the big day arrived, Annette dove off a pier into the cold water. Splash! She swam toward France, accompanied by a steam tug and a rowboat. Whenever she got hungry, she slurped chicken soup or hot chocolate through a long snouted cup, or snacked on tiny sandwiches held out on the long end of a stick. Annette had outdistanced the other swimmers by a mile when she got seasick. She didn't make it to France. But people marveled over the young girl who had swum so far and so well. Why, she even made it look artistic. Now, all of England was talking about the Mermaid Queen from Australia. It wasn't long before Annette received an invitation to perform before royalty at London's Bath Club. Annette knew her mother would be proud. But just as she was about to go on stage, the manager rushed over. He told her she couldn't possibly show her bare legs. Annette had come so far, she couldn't let something as silly as a swimsuit get in her way. She thought fast. I mean, can you imagine a time when women were not supposed to wear the swimsuits that we all wear today in public? And then, splash! Do you see what she did? Everybody claps. They said, "Bravo, jolly good, such strength, such artistry." She sewed legs onto her swimsuit so she could swim. I'm sure it slowed her down and made it a little more cumbersome, but she did it regardless, and it was amazing. After the performance at the Bath Club, word of the star swimmers spread farther. Soon, Annette was racing her way through Europe. Next, Annette was invited to America to swim at Wonderland Park in Boston's Revere Beach. America, the land of the free. Ooh, Annette couldn't wait. But when she arrived at Revere Beach, she was amazed at what the American ladies were wearing. Stockings and shoes, bloomers and bathing dresses, collars and corsets and caps, all for a day at the beach. Oh my goodness. While the men and boys splashed in the surf, the waterlogged ladies could only bob up and down near the shore. How could anyone possibly swim in that? That is a lot of heavy things to be wearing in the water. Doesn't look anything at all like Annette's swimsuit. My word, marveled Annette. Then she slipped on her racing suit and dove into the water. Her racing suit looks quite different from the other ladies' suits. Splash! The Bostonians were beside themselves. They screeched and squealed and shrieked with terror. "Hey, what are you doing in that suit?" asked a policeman. Annette was arrested. Good job. "Your Honor," Annette told the judge, "swimming is the most wonderful and healthy exercise. Why, every child in America should be taught to swim." The crowd gasped. Then Annette asked the judge how women could possibly be expected to swim in bathing suits that felt like lead chains, which would drag you down to the bottom. Everyone waited to see what would happen. Would Annette be banned from Boston? Would the judge send her to jail? No! The judge let Annette go. The next morning, the beach was filled with reporters waiting to see what kind of waves Annette would make now. At the water's edge, she threw off her robe. Flash went the cameras. "Oh," breathed the crowd. Annette dove into the cool blue water. She whirled and twirled. She dipped and dived. And from the shore, the ladies watched in their hot, heavy suits. Eventually, some of them tried Annette's style. They swam out in the surf in their sleek new suits. They whirled and twirled and dipped and dived. They sighed with relief. And women and girls have been enjoying the water ever since, all thanks to Annette Kellerman, who was brave enough to make waves. And on this page, as you notice, there are dates next to some of the suits, so you can kind of see how swimsuit styles evolved from when Annette first debuted her suit. And of course, another reason I love picture book biographies is the back matter, the tidbits of factual information back here. And there is an actual photograph of Annette Kellerman there. She is posing in a version of the suit that she wore at London's Bath Club. Remember when she had to sew legs onto it? That's what it looked like. So yeah, most of us have never heard of Annette Kellerman today, but back honestly in her time, she was a household name. She was quite famous, and she was not only an athlete, a renowned athlete, but a best-selling author, an outspoken advocate for women's health and dress reform, and a celebrated stage and movie star who grabbed headlines, whatever she did, and she did indeed earn the nickname Mermaid Queen back then. One of the things that the author said drew her to Annette Kellerman's story was that Annette didn't always succeed, but she continued to be brave and she continued to be determined to keep trying, especially when the rest of the world was telling her no. So it's pretty amazing. She really promoted women's health and swimming, and when Annette was in Boston, a Harvard professor actually wrote an article naming her the perfect woman. And her response was, "I'm the perfect woman from the neck down." She was not convinced that she was a true beauty, but she was really interesting. And a movie was actually made about her in 1952. Of course, Esther Williams was the star, and the title is The $1 Million Mermaid. So that is a peek into the life of Annette Kellerman. And again, the book I read today was Mermaid Queen, a true story by Shanna Corey and Edwin Fotheringham, and was published by Scholastic Press in New York. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.